How do you think the museum has changed under the leadership of Stephen High?
From what I've experienced, in fact, Stephen has been to the gallery, been to the studio. He seems very interested in gaining a first-hand knowledge of how diverse and all-encompassing the Savannah arts community is. And I think that that's obviously a very good thing. I see a lot of effort to be much more inclusive in terms of the broader community. The current show of Luther Van is a good example of that. The gospel choir Sunday brunch events are a marvelous way of connecting to the community. So I see a lot of improvements on those fronts. Clearly, one of the major objectives of the former director was actually getting that building built, which was no small order. So I think she obviously deserves a lot of credit for that.
So, talking about this, the inclusion issue, that different people have different points of view on whether there was an exclusiveness before, or whether there was just a perception, like maybe the Telfair didn't toot its own horn about how much it was outreaching. As an artist who's been here for 11 years, what's your view on that?
Right. Well, that's a good question, and frankly, I'm not sure how qualified I am to answer. In that I've been here 11 years, and really hit the ground running with the kind of work that I do, which are large-scale public art projects. And with the exception of the project that brought me here, which was the Yarmouth project, all of those projects have been elsewhere. So most of, my bread and butter as an artist, for example, has come from projects that take me out of the city on a regular basis. So, I only had kind of a tangential view of what the Telfair was doing, and most of that was the extent to which we were looking to get the support of the Telfair for the Yarmouth project. In fact, one of the co-chair of that committee, her husband was the former director of the Telfair. So I don't know how good a position I am in to really talk about that.
Just from your own experience and from your ties also to the artistic community here,
right,
specifically the African American artistic community.
Right.
Has there been a change? Do you think it was a perception problem, or do you think there was actually kind of exclusion of certain artistic influences, that exist here in Savannah, or was it just a perception thing? Just from what you know,
Sure.
And I understand you don't want to comment beyond what you know.
Right. Yeah. Well, I will say, based on what I believe, that 9 out of all 10 problems are perception. There may be no matter what's at the base of the problem, it's how things are perceived. And if you perceive them in a glass half full as opposed to glass half empty, proactive kind of approach. And so I would cite a difference that I've become aware of with the new director, in that there is, I believe, a much more honest and determined approach to changing that perception by actually having more events, exhibitions, things that do reach out to more of the community. So yeah, that's,
so whether
perception
it was perception or not, it was something that needed to be addressed.
Absolutely,
and,
absolutely.
And the former director wasn't necessarily addressing it, and the new director is. Is that accurate? Or?
I wouldn't be that absolute about it. I think we're talking about degrees. Again, my perception and my dealings with the former director was pretty much focused on the Yarmouth project, and very little, if any, beyond that. And so not being in a position to try to...
How was their involvement with that project?
It was pretty good. It was pretty good. Again, it took 10 years for that project to be built. So, if there's fault, it can be spread pretty fairly over a lot of people and individuals that it took that long. But it was finally done, and I know for one I'm happy to have it done, and I believe that the children have been replaced, because the bronze children have been removed because there was apparently an attempt at vandalism. So even after 10 years to get it built, a year afterwards it had to be sort of portions of it taken out. So it's been a troubled child from the beginning.
Are you still involved with it a lot?
I mean, this is one of the downsides of public art. In fact, I was reading this article in the New York Times where Richard Hunt, who is stellar when it comes to artists in this country with public art, had a piece in New York City that had been completely daubed. I mean, painted over by the city, graffiti. And they finally decided, whoa, we need to do something to replenish this, restore this. So if it's going to happen to Richard Hunt, it's going to happen to all of us.